webinar series. I'm Sean, APC Sports Manager. Today we invite three very important persons from the International Wheelchair Rugby Federation, known as IWRF. Let me introduce Steve Jeff, the CEO of IWRF first, who worked in sports management for 23 years, principally in rugby for World Rugby. He works with the World Academy of Sports as Senior Visiting Fellow, designing and delivering tailored training programs, including organization capacity program for IPC Agitos with Asian deliveries in Bangkok, Nursultan, and Tehran. He also assisted the IWRF with strategic operational planning and organizational advice since 2010. Thank you very much, Steve, for being with us today. As I said, I know it's early in the morning where you are now. I really appreciate your time. Before we introduce today's presenters, may I ask you to give welcome remarks to audience?
Thank you very much, Sean. Yes, my name is Steve Griffiths, and I'm currently the CEO of the International Wheelchair Rugby Federation, IWRF. It's actually great to be back in Asia virtually today. I've always enjoyed working in Asia. And for the past 4 years, I've been working with the Asian Football Confederation, training personnel from 43 member nations in Kuala Lumpur 3 times a year. The commitment of the peoples of Asia to training and education is legendary. And it gives me great pleasure to be introducing these series of webinars associated with wheelchair rugby, one of the most exciting Paralympic sports, which usually sells out its tickets at the Paralympics quicker than any other sport. The sport does so much to rehabilitate those who have what many would call catastrophic injuries, and it gives them the opportunity to play a competitive full contact sport. It also provides them with an opportunity to play a community-based sport, but also a pathway where athletes can aspire to achieve a Paralympic medal. The mission of the IWRF is growing and supporting the wheelchair rugby family, and trust that many of you will assist with achieving that mission. These series of seminars will showcase the sport of wheelchair rugby and provide you with information regarding what it takes to play the game and start the journey of creating your own rugby family. Information on officiating and hosting tournaments will be provided in a few weeks, and we welcome any questions you may have at any time after these webinars. I wish you all the very best in your journey into wheelchair rugby, and please enjoy the seminars. Thank you, Sean.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you very much, Steve, for your warm welcoming. Let us start today's session. It is my pleasure to have Dr. Sherry Harris, IWRF Head of Development, and Mr. Adam Frost, IWRF Competition Committee and International Coach. They are going to give us a presentation regarding introduction to wheelchair rugby and coaching pathway. Thank you, Sherry and Adam. I think we are ready to go. Now, floor is yours.
Thank you, Sean. Really appreciate the privilege that it is to be back in Asia virtually. As Steve said, it's fantastic to be back, and I can't wait to be back in person. To be honest, I welcome again and endorse everything that Steve said in terms of welcoming you to the rugby family, coming in whatever form that may take, as a volunteer, a player, a coach, a mechanic, an administrator, or somebody that just wants to showcase the game and host a tournament. This is the first of 3 webinars that IWRF would like to present with the Asia Paralympic Committee. And this one's about introduction to wheelchair rugby and then a focus on coaching. So my internet has been up and down, so I've pre-recorded, so I get the luxury of listening to my own voice for 20 minutes as well. So I'm going to jump into my 20-minute presentation, and then we will follow that with Adam's coaching presentation, and then we welcome any questions. No question is too silly, too small, too big. If we can't answer it between the three of us, we will find someone that can. So I will share my screen and start the presentation. Thank you all for being here and joining us.
Welcome to the IWRF family. I'm Cherie, currently in New Zealand, and so looking forward to coming back to Asia in 2021. My academic pursuits a long time ago led me to this fantastic sport with a master's in community psychology and a PhD in sports psychology with expertise in parasport. Over 20 years ago, when I was introduced to wheelchair rugby, I was also really privileged to be able to take on a number of roles within the sport. I've been lucky enough to have been involved in coaching, managing, I've been an administrator, sports psychologist and photographer, board member and clinic facilitator, delivering IPC introductory clinics on wheelchair rugby globally. I was heavily involved in the World Championships in 2018, designing and delivering the Observer program, as well as involved in international relations. In recent times, development clinics have been held across Asia, and I've met many enthusiastic people committed to growing this fantastic sport of wheelchair rugby. A highlight was the Asia Paralympic Committee Conference and General Assembly in Dubai in 2019, where we introduced the sport to many, many new faces, some of whom I hope are joining us today. I'd like to begin by providing you with a glimpse of our world. This short clip showcases who we are, a family. Passionate, determined, committed individuals who want to grow the sport that originated in Canada in 1977. Wheelchair rugby, first named Murderball, was conceived as a contact sport for men and women with high-level spinal cord injury. A combination of handball, basketball and ice hockey was to produce this hard-hitting, fast-paced contact sport that is clearly a spectator sport for all. Over the last 40 years, our sport has evolved to include a variety of impairments and adaptation of the rules to make it the fast-paced, hard-hitting, sell-out game that it is today. The International Wheelchair Rugby Federation became independent in 2010, and at the very top of our organisational chart are our member organisations. We have about 40 member organisations and a total of about 70 countries that we assist with in terms of developing the game. We have over 30 internationally ranked countries, about another 25 that are developing the game, training and playing at national and regional level, and a further 25 that have indicated an interest in developing the game. Our president, Mr. Richard Allcroft, resides in the UK, and we have a global board that sit with an independent judicial chair on one side and an athlete council on the other. And our athlete council represents the very heart of our organisation, the athletes. Athlete welfare is absolutely at the centre of everything we do. You met Mr. Steve Griffiths earlier, our CEO, and he heads up 8 different departments, ranging from technical development through classification, competitions, and more. And these are all staffed by volunteers who are very passionate, dedicated individuals who love talking about, discussing, and growing the game of wheelchair rugby globally. As stated, we're a global sport. There's a few grey areas you'll see in Africa and Asia, and we would love you to start filling in those grey areas. We have 3 zones: the Americas, Europe, and currently what's termed Asia Oceania, which also includes Africa and the Middle East. We have about 3,500 players globally. Within Asia alone, we have about 700 players, of which 100 are females, I'm pleased to say. This is a sport for men and women, and we highly encourage women to get involved. Our major events are World's Paralympics and Zonal Championships. We have a robust pathway to our pinnacle event of our World Championships, and Tim Johnson will be discussing competitions and bidding and hosting events and tournaments with you in a few weeks' time. Our World Championships consist of 12 teams, and we have them either side of the Paralympics. At the Paralympics, we at the moment are allowed 8 teams, and again, men and women involved in the one team. The pathway to Paralympics is via the regions. We have regional championships in all 3 zones at the moment. So there are lower divisions that you play, and depending on your placing, you then may go through to your zonal championships. And depending where you come in those, you can go to qualifiers for Worlds or Paralympics. The IWRF also endorses sanctioned events. Examples of these are the Quad Nations in the UK, Metro Cup in Poland, and Canada Cup, surprisingly, in Canada. These events are to assist in world rankings, to create more robust international competition and more awareness of the sport. And alongside those, clinics are generally held in classification, officiating, and all aspects of development. So who can play? Anyone. Absolutely anyone can jump in a chair and play the sport for fun. If you'd like to become an eligible wheelchair rugby player on the path to sanctioned competition, Worlds or Paralympics, then you do need to meet a minimum eligibility criteria, which means having an impairment in all 4 limbs. There is a deeply detailed classification manual on our website. There's also simplified classification rules for you to read through to work out eligibility, and we're always here to help with any questions you might have. To make up a wheelchair rugby team, you need 4 players. There's 4 players on court. Generally, teams are made up of 12 players who sub in and out, but at any one time, there has to be 4 players on court. Each player is classified from a 0.5 with relatively lower functionality up to a more higher functioning player with 3.5. You can have any combination of numbers, but they must total no more than 8 points on court at any one time. What do you need to play? The main thing is chairs. Yes, you can start off playing in a day chair or an ex-wheelchair basketball chair, but inevitably when you start hitting, and hitting hard because it is a contact sport, and that's one of the things we absolutely love about it, you'll find that you do need a slightly more robust, specifically built rugby chair. Now, you don't have to start out with a high-spec, very expensive rugby chair. You can start with a low-level, entry-level rugby chair, and if your country or organisation is capable of manufacturing your own, then the IWRF does have designs that we can help at the entry level, at the development level, so please contact us. Second-hand chairs are definitely the way to go. Go to existing clubs, contact players through our website, through social media, and see how you go. But you do need a chair to play the sport. Gloves really help. You can play without, but your hands may get pretty sore pretty quickly. And strapping helps you not fall out of your chair unexpectedly. You do need a ball, a round ball, a lightweight ball. We use a volleyball, and a flat surface. Players have learnt to play the game on tennis courts, in car parks, on driveways, but we do play on a basketball court. And of course, we need people. We need our players, coaches, mechanics, or someone that can put in an axle if it falls out or change a tyre. Referees, we use 2 referees on court in a game, and Liam Costello, one of our top Paralympic level referees, will be talking with you in a few weeks about how to become a wheelchair rugby referee and the officiating pathway from entry level through to officiating at Worlds and Paralympics. Everyone is a volunteer in this sport, and we need loads of them. We would not survive without them. I'm going to touch on how important our volunteers are shortly. Wheelchair rugby uses 2 different chairs, what we class as a low point and a high point chair. The chair you see on the right is a defensive chair used by low pointers. Those players generally class from 0.5 to 1.5. And you can see the pick bar on the front, which is used to stop attacking players. The chair on the left is an offensive chair, a high point chair, usually utilised by players 2 to 3.5. And they are easily manoeuvred chairs that generally go around or invariably through other players to take the ball to the other end of the court to score. I spoke about volunteers earlier, and we just would not survive without them. We really need to value our volunteers, and our sports run globally by them. They are everywhere. They are our officials, our classifiers, our bus drivers, our coaches, timekeepers, scorekeepers, our medics, and our mechanics. So where do we find these precious people? Well, pretty much anyone you speak to, if you have a passion for the game, will get pulled in and want to see and want to be involved. Once people see the sport, they generally want to help out. They want to become part of the wheelchair rugby family. So talk to your work colleagues, show them the game on social media, advertise it, talk to other people involved in other sports and sports clubs. Make the most of your friends and family coming down to watch the game. Talk to your colleagues at school and universities. The more we can create awareness and educate people about this fantastic sport, the more we'll get people buying into it and helping us out. And we desperately need our volunteers. The question I often get asked is about recruitment. Where are the players? How do we find them and get them involved? Well, like the volunteers, they're everywhere. Sometimes they're a bit harder to spot. Sometimes they're on the sidelines watching, a bit unsure. But if you sit down with them and explain the game and explain what the game can provide, on court and off court, camaraderie, being a team player, friendship, fun, enjoyment, competition, get them to jump in a chair and give it a go. Players are in spinal units and in hospitals and rehab centres. They're also in schools and universities and workplaces and maybe playing or involved in other sports. The only way we're going to introduce the sport to them and get them involved in our sport is by showcasing it, by putting it out there, showing the videos, putting the images up, talking about it, inviting people to come along, being open and friendly, and as I said, showing them what it can give them on court and off court. Combine with other sports and create have-a-go days. IWRF works very closely with World Rugby. We have a great relationship with a lot of World Rugby partners and organisations throughout the world. So see if your local rugby union will support you in showcasing wheelchair rugby. Talk to the medical personnel, the physios, the occupational therapists, the paramedics, those that may be in touch on a daily basis with possible eligible players. Generally, just shout out about the game. Tell everyone how great it is. Thanks to Canada Cup, we have got a few slides on the rules. We know who is eligible, who can play. We know what is needed to play. So let's talk a little bit about how the game is played. It's played on a basketball court with a volleyball. Players are classified with a number, as I said, between 0.5 to 3.5 on their functional ability. On the right, here's another example of a low point chair. It's longer and it helps the athlete defend. Hitting is absolutely encouraged chair to chair, but not when the whistle is signalled a stop and play. You also can't turn the chair by hitting behind the axle. That's called a spin and it's a foul. Players also cannot strike or hit one another. It's chair-to-chair contact only. A try is scored when a player carries the ball or is in possession of the ball across the goal line. Teams get 4 30-second timeouts and 2 bench timeouts. Once a team has the ball, they have 40 seconds to score. The team also needs to get the ball into the offensive zone in 12 seconds. That's over the halfway line. You also must dribble or pass the ball every 10 seconds. And you can pass the ball forwards, backwards, or sideways. So how do we get started? We find some chairs, get a round ball, and get a group of people that want to play, that want to have some fun, have some contact, and play wheelchair rugby. We have a number of resources on our website, IWRF.com. The Step Up resource is how to get started. The National Governance resource is one which details how to govern the sport when you have got a club or a couple of clubs involved. We have a very detailed manual of the rules. We also have a 4-page version of the simplified rules. We're here to help. We really, really would love your questions. We want to help you develop and maintain a sport. And we really mostly just want you to have a lot of fun. So what I'd like to do to finish is to show you our family and to invite you to be a part of our community.
The tunnel, the sound is still up, the walls are thumping, the heart starts to race. You get this nervousness in your chest. You forget you're in a wheelchair. You forget you have a disability, and it's that moment where you're fully alive.
It's all out destroying the opponent on court.
This is a combat sport. The hits are massive. You smash with each other, you knock people around, you go flying, it lights you up.
Es muy fuerte, estar en silla de ruedas y poder golpear a la otra persona lo hace sentir a uno como grande, como fuerte.
C'est ce qui est bon, ça, c'est le rugby, c'est du contact. The competition is fierce. On any given day, it could be anyone's game.
It's not an easy sport, it's really rough.
Love that.
As much as you're out there on the court trying to compete and trying to beat each other, there is a sense of care there.
It's a big It's a large brotherhood.
It's a global family that is always there for you. The community extends far beyond your own team.
It changes lives, and it doesn't just change the lives of the athletes, it changes the lives of everybody who's involved in it. For me, wheelchair rugby is my life.
特に今となってはもう僕にはなくてはならないもの、本当に人生ともに歩んでいく、パートナー的なものでもあるし、また僕の生きがいの一つでもあるし。
Practice the whole year, every day. It's not just a hobby, it's a lifestyle.
It's pretty tough, pretty hard out.
It's definitely demanding. The knock-on effect is you get to travel the world, you get to play an awesome sport. It's a hell of a reward for putting in some hard work.
when people ask me what I do, I say with pride, I coach wheelchair rugby.
I love the ultimate human potential this sport shows.
When I started, everything depended on families. And that aspect still continues even up to today.
전 세계 있는 휠체어 럭비 가족들은 거의 다 우리 휠체어 럭비 가족들이라고 생각합니다. 뭐 심판, 선수, 그다음에 각 팀 감독들 전체다가 정말 전 세계에 있는 큰 가족입니다.
Sport gives you that opportunity to go out and be a part of something.
I mean, when you're on court and you have family, friends, and just people who generally enjoy watching the sport there cheering you on, it's amazing.
The transformation it can make in a human being that is the pinnacle of what it's about.
I can't imagine my life without it. It truly has transformed my life.
I hope that serves as an introduction to not only the sport of wheelchair rugby, but the global family of wheelchair rugby. We would love you to be a part of it. Adam's now going to provide you with an insight into becoming a wheelchair rugby coach and the coaching pathway. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry, for this great introduction to wheelchair rugby. I think before we move on to Adam's presentation, let us have any question if any audience have. I got already 3 persons. They raised their hand. It seems they have a question for Sherry. Let me go to first Godam Singh. Are you with us? You want to ask any question? Godam? You are on mute. You need to unmute. Yeah, there we go. You have a question. I think the button pushed accidentally, so don't worry about that. You can ask anytime if you have any question. Then let me go to Lagahaf, Mishar. You also raised your hand if you have any question for Sherry. Nope. Yeah, no worry about. We just still have time to ask any question for Sherry. So shall we move on to the Adams? Well, there is one person raised hand. Tarun Kumar, you have a question?
Yes, sir. I have a question. Like, how's that point system decided in wheelchair rugby? That player point system.
Good question. So that's our classification system, which we're going to go into more detail on in one of our next webinars. We have classifiers who are medical professionals globally, and it's an exceedingly robust system. It's a physical assessment of the player, looking at their limbs, their hand function, and their trunk function from a medical point of view in terms of functionality, and also when they're in the chair playing the game. So looking at how their skills and their function intertwine. It takes 2 panels of classifiers. So there's 6 classifiers all up. It is a very robust process that classifies people into those 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, and 3.5 classes. Does that answer your question in a very overview kind of way?
Yeah, I get it. Thank you.
Thank you. I just got one more question from Hong Kong NPC. What's the ratio of males versus female player currently? How to encourage more female participants to play the sport?
Okay, the ratio at the moment is very high in males and slowly creeping up with females. We probably have about 90% of our database male players, but we certainly have a lot more female players now, especially at the internationally ranked teams. About 2 Paralympics ago, we may have had 1 or 2. We have more than that now, and we actively encourage women to play. We also have women-only tournaments. So while the ratio is not anywhere near as even as we might like, we are definitely a mixed sport. We actively encourage women to jump in a chair. One of the rules that we did put in to further encourage women to play, and this comes, I will go into more detail in this when we present our classification component, but one of the things we do is we give female players a slightly lower classification ranking. So if they're classed as a 2-point player, they will be officially classed as a 1.5 player. So there is a slightly lesser ranking to encourage females to come in and play. It's in a way, sometimes it works out to be very fair and even, other times it's not necessarily needed, but across the board we do, because essentially you're looking at, let's use rugby union as an example, with some of those really big, tall, strong blokes. And while we have some really big, tall, strong females, the majority of females are smaller than the blokes playing rugby and not necessarily as strong, although you wouldn't necessarily believe it. So we give a slight points differential to the females to encourage them to play the game. Everything else is completely even and across the board.
Well, I don't see. We got one more question from Aman Kumar. How to score in wheelchair rugby?
Okay, so you need to have possession of the ball. The ball needs to be on your lap or in the ball holder or in your hands. You have to be in possession of the ball, and you need to go across the try line, which is marked with cones, and you need to get 2 wheels across. It cannot be your 2 back casters. It can be your 2 front wheels. It can be a big wheel and a little wheel at the front on the side, but you must get 2 wheels across the goal line while you're in possession of the ball.
Let's move on to the second session, which will be about the coaching pathway. Adam, the floor is yours, please.
Okay, thank you, Sean, and hi everybody. Adam Frost. I give a bit of a. I also have pre-recorded my video simply because I was expecting this to be at 1 o'clock in the morning, therefore I would be online. However, it's not quite that late, so here I am. So I introduced myself in the video, so I won't do it now. Am I starting the video, Shuri, or are you doing it? I'm doing it? Okay, so just go ahead and please start the video, and then if you have any questions at the end, I'd be happy to answer.
Are you screen sharing, Adam?
I am not, but I will.
That would be great.
Screen.
Sorry for interrupting. I think the pre-recording is not really working. So can we play this recording from our side, if you don't mind? Yep.
Am I on mute?
Yeah, so.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Just give us a few seconds, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for this inconvenience, but the video will be played shortly. In the meantime, if anyone miss chance to ask any question for Sherry, it's time. Okay. Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have several.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adam. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adam Frost, and I'm going to spend a few minutes today talking to you a little bit about coaching and coach development.
Sorry about that. I have
for wheelchair rugby.
Yeah,
I started.
There you go.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adam Frost, and I'm going to spend a few minutes today talking to you a little bit about coaching and coach development for wheelchair rugby. I started coaching wheelchair rugby back in 1999 for the provincial rugby team here in British Columbia. I was the assistant coach of Team Canada from 2005 to 2010. I was then the head coach of Team Japan 2013, 2014. And now I am a talent identification coach here working for Wheelchair Rugby Canada. I work with athletes 4 to 8 years away from representing Canada. And I also work in developing our coaches, evaluating our coaches, and helping to refine some of our coach education material. So just a little bit of background. In my opinion, wheelchair rugby has really transitioned into a high-performance sport over the last 20 years. And I think one of the biggest differences between the teams that are competing for medals at the Paralympics versus most other teams is that high-performance culture. If you are not what we call a 24/7 athlete, chances of you having international success, although probably not impossible, are much slimmer. And one of the revelations that come from this high-performance culture is that athletes go through stages of development. And you can see here in this image that I borrowed from Wheelchair Basketball Canada, the stages of development that athletes go through in wheelchair basketball. Wheelchair rugby, the images may look a little bit different simply because often our athletes are acquiring their disabilities a little bit later in life, and we're taking them from patient to high-performance athlete. So the images may look a little bit different, but the stages are still similar. Maybe not the first stage or two, but once you kind of get into what we call learning to train, then athletes go through stages. And of course, this is important because you really need to know what coaching looks like at each stage of development of athletes. Because earlier on, the focus isn't on performance and winning, and later on, you do want to focus on performance and winning, and perhaps recreation and fun are not as big of factors for you. So really what wheelchair rugby coaches need to know is how to analyze and correct performance, and they're going to acquire this knowledge through formal and non-formal training opportunities. So formal training opportunities are curriculum-based, standardized programs, such as the image you see in the bottom left here from World Rugby, and in Canada we call it the National Coaching Certification Program. In Canada we have 3 levels of coach training: introduction to competition, or club coach. So these will be your coaches working at the lower ends of long-term or of your athlete development pathway. You then have, we have competition coach, and these are the coaches that might be working at, say, provincial teams or athletes around the stage of development that I'm at, 4 to 8 years away from being Paralympians. And then finally, you've got your high performance coach. And by the time you've reached high performance coaching, it's not specifically courses that you are taking, it's more an gap analysis of your coaching performance, and then targeting specific areas of weakness and trying to address those. And of course, non-formal training opportunities are just informal, lifelong process that every person accumulates, where every person accumulates knowledge, skills, attitudes, and insights from your daily experiences. And some of the research that I've read suggests that coaches of athletes with a disability place particular importance on interactions with others when it comes to non-formal training opportunities. And I believe that that's because formal coach education opportunities are often geared towards children and, of course, able-bodied sport participants. So coaches take these opportunities, they learn some of the science about coaching, which is important, but they are not necessarily feeling prepared to coach wheelchair rugby or athletes with a disability as they move forward. So coaching, really coaches need to be able to, in the process of analyzing performance, coaches need to be able to know what the intended performance looks like, know what the current performance looks like, and then how to correct that performance. And formal coach education definitely helps with that process. We can teach you what the simple skills are. We can teach you the complex skills, which of course are just simple skills put together to form a complex skill. So simple skill would be a pass, complex skill would be a give and go. And then, of course, you've got your tactics, which is evolving your complex skills into plays. And, of course, you've got plays on offense and you've got plays on defense. And coaches really need to know what the intended performance needs to look like. If you're going to win a gold medal, well, you better know what the best teams in the world are doing and what they look like. And if you're coaching grassroots programs, well, I mean, the intended performance isn't going to be the same, but you still really need to be able to know what these early or young athletes are trying to accomplish. Once you know what the intended performance is, you also, of course, need to know what the current performance is, and formal coach education will definitely assist with that. Intention, detection, correction is the process, and coach education will help you understand how to break the skills down into parts, what the biomechanics looks like, and of course teach you what the reason for the gaps may be. And you can see I've kind of listed those along the left hand side here. Environment is probably not a big factor in wheelchair rugby simply because we're an indoor sport, so we're not affected as much by rain and snow. But all the rest of them are certainly applicable. And formalized coach education really helps coaches to be able to address these gaps by being able to break skills down into parts or plays down into parts, and how to observe, and the tools to teach coaches, or excuse me, to teach athletes how to improve. Then come the corrections, of course, and this isn't really so much part of the coaching education. Formalized coaching education is a little bit more maybe towards the informal side, because now you have the tools to go out and coach and run practices, and now you're learning some of those experiences, or taking some of those experiences and working with your athletes to improve either individual or team performance based on the context that you're dealing with. Evaluation is also a big part of formalized coach education. Coaches don't pass or fail like you would, say, a test at a school. It's more assessing where the coach is at, where they're able to do, and then building an action plan to help them address some of those gaps. And coaches never stop learning. You know, you need to approach coaching the way you would being an athlete. You're always trying to get better. Coaches who have fixed mindsets, probably not the best candidates to coach. You really want somebody who's willing to grow and improve and change as the sport changes. And wheelchair rugby has changed tremendously, like I said, over the past 20 years since those first Paralympic Games. And finally, as I mentioned, the informal training processes, doing, interacting, reflecting. Right now, you are in an informal coach education process, right? You are participating yourselves. So, I would encourage you to do what this group is here, bring in some sort of informal or formalized mentor approach, particularly if you want to become high performance as quickly as possible. Having somebody who knows what a high performance culture is and how to address the gaps to help you get your program to the goal that you're trying to achieve as quickly as possible would be very helpful, in my opinion. So that's it. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if I'm online. If I'm online, then I'll be able to answer any questions. And if not, I'm sure somebody will be able to give you my email address. Please feel free to reach out, and I'll do my best to get back to you and answer any questions you have. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam. Since you are with us now, anyone has any question for Adam regarding coaching pathway and no? Or any question in general for IWRF? You are more than welcome to ask any question. Well, I may give you some more time to think about. In the meantime, I received several questions from registered in advance. Let me go through one by one. From Susan Slee, the question is, what involvement do players want off the field or post-career in the game? Are these sufficient avenues to pursue this at present? I think the question is about whether IWRF has any supporting program for athletes after retire their sporting career.
I'll take that one. So essentially, we are absolutely open to athletes that have played the game and would like to stay involved in any capacity, be that technically, be that looking into towards coaching in terms of local organising committees for tournaments. We don't have a structured pathway for retired players. That's not to say that we're not happy to look into that, and we definitely welcome players' involvement on our committees at our International Federation. I know definitely at the national member organisation level, there are a lot of ex-players, retired players who are keen to get involved and aid with development and clinics. I encourage anybody that has been playing the game that is no longer involved at a competitive level and maybe are at a bit of a loss but would absolutely love to stay involved, to contact us. I am sure there is a job waiting for you somewhere in the world involved in wheelchair rugby and where you can volunteer and provide your expertise.
Okay, next question is came from Bhutan Paralympic Committee. How do you help developing NPCs to start such teams games?
Steve, are you still awake? Can I throw that to you? Just because we'd love to hear from you again.
Yes, certainly. We have just developed a product which is how to start a club or to start a national member organisation, which can be accessed through the website. From when, Cherie?
Hopefully, let's say Monday.
Monday,
just
okay.
to be on the safe side. But if you email me, I will send it to you as soon as I get your email.
Yeah, I suggest you do that if it's before Monday. But it has just been developed, and it's a very easy way of establishing a national member organisation or even a club. The same process can be applied. It's how you plan, it's how you engage, and some of the tools you will need in terms of governance models to make it all happen.
Thanks, Steve. Can I just add in addition to that, reaching out to us, and we can, if you're not quite at the governance stage, if you just want to get some resources to begin the game, we're happy to put you in touch with a mentor, with a person from a country that's got the sport in many clubs for you to talk to. An example of this recently is Uganda, who reached out, had a conversation with someone in Canada, and are rapidly down the path. We had a Skype call from Development IWRF. So keep the communication flowing. We would love to help.
We got one question from audience. How many players play in one team?
So in a team generally that travels for competition, there are 12 players. And on court at any one time, there are 4 players. So if you generally have, let's go with about 8 players, you're looking really good for being able to play a full game and not get too exhausted, and you've got some subs. But you do need 4 players on court. Okay.
The question from Wheelchair Rugby Foundation of India, Mr. Laghav Vishar. We want wheelchair quadriplegic rugby game related videos. I think he is kind of looking for any training, educational video clip for quadriplegic rugby player in games.
I can direct him to our website, IWRF.com. There are videos and resources on there, and if he doesn't find what he's looking for, reach out, send us an email, and we'll send you in the right direction.
Okay. Thank you. Those are the all questions I received in advance from the registered audience. Do you have any question for IWRF?
Sir, which company wheelchair is best for wheelchair rugby, sir?
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
Sir, which company wheelchair is best for wheelchair rugby?
which company that makes. We can't endorse one particular company over another. There are what we can do, if you're interested in the high-level rugby chairs, is we can send you a list of the companies that make wheelchair rugby chairs for competition level.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yep. There's one more question from Susan Lee. Will the PowerPoint deck giving an overview of the game be available after today? Sure, we can share today's video recording to audiences, right? Yep, we'll share the PowerPoint and video. Any more questions from audiences? Otherwise, I'd like to invite Mr. Tarek Sway, APC CEO, for asking his welcome remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Good morning and good evening to everybody. My apologies for missing the opening of the session. I was stuck in the traffic outside. So, but I didn't miss any minute of the presentations. Thank you again, Steve, for giving us this opportunity to introduce wheelchair rugby to the region. Thanks to Dr. Sherry and Adam for the great presentation. I really enjoyed them. And on this occasion also, I would like to congratulate Wheelchair Rugby for being part of Rising Phoenix movie that was launched last month by the IPC, and it's a great opportunity for us to know more about the sport. It's one of the most exciting team sports. It's unfortunate that it's not yet that popular in Asia, the biggest region in the world, but I'm optimistic for the future. The good news that we have the edition of the Asian Games in 26 will be in Japan, and Japan is one of the strongest teams, so we will have 6 years ahead to prepare for this great event, and probably it will be the first apparition of the wheelchair rugby in our games. And I appreciate the efforts and the work that you are doing in developing and promoting the sport. And I'm sure in the very near future, we will see this sport growing very quickly in our region. And if you need any support from the APC headquarters, board, or the management team, please feel free to contact me personally, Sean, or anybody in the office. And we are always more than happy to support you in the process. And hopefully, we will be enjoying the wheelchair rugby in the Asian Para Games very soon. Thank you again for your time. I know it's early morning somewhere for some of you and late in the evening for others. So really much appreciated. I know we still have two sessions to enjoy with you. And the good thing that these webinars also are accessible offline. So we will make them available on our platforms, and for those who missed the session due to the time constraints, they will have the opportunity to watch them later offline at any time, and also we will send the presentations to them by emails. Thank you again, and have a wonderful end of day or a good morning for all of you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was on mute. Thank you, Tarek. We have one more question from Lakhva Mishar, where we can find the coaching for rugby in Delhi or India.
We're in the middle of beginning an IWRF endorsed coaching pathway, which is going to be available to everyone over the next 18 months. The level 1 grassroots one will be out by the end of the year. Adam and I are both involved in that, so me saying that to everybody means we need to make it happen. But in terms of any questions regarding coaching in particular, if they'd like to reach out to me, then we can have a discussion offline at the moment as to what's available or how we can help initiate further coaching within India.
And did you hear what Sherry said? It will be available by the end of the year.
Ah, dear. Yes, it will be.
Okay. Adam, anything to add?
No, not to what Sherry just said. By the end of the year.
Okay. Any more question? No, looks we all good for today's session. Thank you again, Steve, Sherry, and Adam, for your time and great work for our reason. I'm sure that the information and knowledge you have shared with us today help us a lot in terms of initiating and developing wheelchair rugby in their countries. Please inform that the second session of wheelchair rugby will be conducted on 22nd October. If I may, Sherry, could you tell us a little bit what the next session would be about?
Yes, I can. The next session on the 22nd of October will be with Mr. Tim Johnson, who will be speaking to you from New Zealand on tournaments, competitions, competition pathways, how to bid for and host regional tournaments and world championship tournaments, how to get started on your own first tournament in a country with maybe neighbouring countries at a development level. So I'll be involved with that as well. Hopefully Steve will be joining us again, and we will be discussing all elements of administration, local organising committees and competition pathways.
Okay. Thank you, Sherry. The registration for the next session of wheelchair rugby is already open, so don't miss out this opportunity, and see you all soon again at in the second session of the wheelchair rugby. Okay, thank you everyone for your time and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, John.